Now?
Mhm.
So I'll call the Neary Building Committee Finance Subcommittee meeting to order on January 24th at 1:06 p.m. Hi, everybody. So quick agenda as always, but I do want to spend some time talking about the big meeting on the hopefully the 7th. So we've got minutes to do first. Anybody have an issue with Mariana's minutes as usual? They're good, I think.
Oh.
I didn't. Mark?
All good.
Andrew, you're good?
Good.
All right, Andrew?
I move that we approve the minutes for our December 30th meeting.
Second.
Roll call vote, Andrew?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Took his eye, so that's done. All right, we've got two invoices, normal invoices, Skanska and Arrow Street. Arrow Street is its normal fixed fee for the schematic period. Any questions on that one?
Nope.
Jim, you're still on budget as far as Skanska goes?
Yeah, our projections, and like I said, just for next month, we'll have the estimating. So that'll be a big invoice next month just for the estimating services. But yep, we are on track for completion through SD.
So we estimated for the estimating?
Yes, we did.
And what happens if you go over?
We don't go over. Our contracts are contracts.
Okay, so you really do have a cap on what you're going to bill?
Correct. Yep.
As I thought you truly were hourly, so there is a cap.
Yep.
All right.
Amount not to exceed.
Not to exceed. Yep.
Okay, I did not know that. Okay, now never mind. All right, so Andrew or Mark, do you have any questions on either invoice?
Did not.
You want to make?
All right. I move that we approve Arrow Street invoice number 729,900 in the amount of $87,500.
Second.
Roll call vote, Andrew?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, that one's approved. Andrew?
All right. I move that we approve the Skanska invoice number 1323833-000-15478-13 in the amount of $5,400.
Second.
Roll call vote, Andrew?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Hook his eye, 3-0. Okay, Becky, they're in your court. All right, now to the important things, which is the next estimate. So Jim, is everybody on track with the schedule that we talked about previously, which is that would have the reconciliation on the 5th of February?
Yeah, so we have our reconciliation meeting on the 5th. So basically we get them end of day on the 3rd. On the 4th, we're going to have an internal review. And then we have our reconciliation on Wednesday. And our hope is by the end of that reconciliation, estimators can go back and get one final package. The only caveat to that would be if there are substantial changes, it may be first thing on the 6th, but our goal is to have it at end of day on the 5th, which with an SD level estimate, our hope is that, yeah, we can have them out by end of day. Our reconciliation meeting is 8 to 2 that day. So that'll give the afternoon for the estimators to circle back and to just update their estimates and then get them end of day on the 5th.
So you've got your estimate, you've got the estimator's estimate, you sit down and talk about where there's differences, right?
Yep.
And what if you don't, who decides what the number's going to be if the numbers are different? Who is going to make that call as far as what goes into the reconciled estimate?
So that's a collaborative effort amongst the estimators and both Arrow Street and Skanska, the project management teams. So basically, if there is a difference, the estimators, say it's on linear foot of footings. Okay, why is there a difference? And then the estimators will talk about their assumptions, and usually within that meeting, you'll come to some reconciliation of, one estimator was assuming X, the other was assuming Y, and you get to a common number. So yeah, it's essentially a collaborative effort, but it's primarily the estimators based on what their assumptions were. So,
They're sitting there just talking to each other, and if I can understand that if there's just a difference in assumptions, you can get those corrected. But I would expect there to be a lot of differences, right? If not, you'd kind of wonder why. You got two people doing something totally independently. Well, is there ever a case where both sides just dig in their feet and say they're right, and you've got to have someone to break that tie?
that, yes, and I would say that's what us and Arrow Street are there for to, okay, what is the correct number? Do we split the difference on a number? Do we feel like one estimator's assumption is better than the others? And with Arrow Street understanding their design, they definitely have a lot of input on that as well. Being they're the basis of what the estimate is and what the basis of the design is.
Well, yeah, but you're one of the two, so I wouldn't think you'd weigh in, right? I mean, you're going to be biased towards yours, right?
No, we want to get to the right number. That's us. We want to get to whatever the correct number is. And whichever way that swings, I really don't have an opinion.
So based on what you know, this is the 24th, right? You believe that they're on schedule to meet the schedule, both of them? Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
All right.
there's been behind the scenes, lots back and forth, questions from both us and Arrow Street, just as far as what their assumptions are. So, yep, there's definitely been a lot of chatter as they go through the estimate, which is a good sign. So, yep, we are on track.
Okay, now move forward. What is the date that this has to be submitted to the MSBA? Remind us of that.
Yep. So the date so we will review it on the 7th. And we don't have to submit until the 25th. However, and not to scare the group, but if we are leaving some time, if the budget is not where we want it to be for value engineering, value management. So if we do have to pull things back and regroup, we're leaving some time in there for that.
And Jim, that was going to be one of my questions was, does this estimate contain any VE? Right. And, I think this project's going to be tough. So I don't know if it's worth to mention to the estimators while they're still have their hands in the pie to say, if you see places at which there is a VE opportunities to either flag them or go with the lower cost option. But,
Yep.
I think if that is on the table, that there is a VE thing that needs to be done after we get these numbers, just assume that it needs to be done.
Yeah, so we are, what they're estimating is what is shown. However, on a parallel path, both Arrow Street and Skanska, we're developing a VE list so that we can have that, because the time is so short that to make sure that we have that list so that, say the budget is over, we can start to give a path back to how we get back to what the budget was shown at PSR.
But I think the budget we have now is over, even if it's the budget we
I
have at
agree.
PSR.
I was going to say the same thing. We already have a budget. So why wouldn't we be doing VE right now, period? Not waiting to see. So I don't know what the phrase means if the budget's over. It's already too much. And that's where all the pushbacks come in from the town. The seniors are all pushing back on this number. So we know we've got to get the number that we have now, the 81.6 down. And to that, we've already got to add the cost of the geothermal. So it's already above 81.6 when you do that, as far as the bond that's got to be floated. So we're saying right now, we know that it's already over. We know that we've got to get this number down if we think we've got a realistic chance of getting this passed. So
I mean, what I would say to that is that it's they're pricing what has been shown to the NBC, what has been agreed upon and voted previously.
okay.
So if that's the consensus of the group, then and we have to do a VE effort no matter what, then I think that's a separate discussion for the bigger group.
Well, Jason Malinowski and I recently had a meeting with with a group of seniors, a small group, but they are influential seniors. They're on this thing called Council on Aging. And we took a straw vote. We were there to answer questions, right? It was the first office hours we had. We were there to answer questions, but we did take a straw vote at the end of it, and they all voted against it. So I'm just saying we've got an uphill climb, certainly with the senior group, no doubt about that. And so, you know, that first number being a 7 rather than 8 would help. A 6 would even really be great, but I don't think we can go that far. Okay, so back to our schedule. If you've got to give this group a chance to look at this. We've got to have more than a few hours. So what I'm going to do is set 2 different meeting dates for this meeting. I'm going to do the 7th, and then I'm going to do either the Monday or the Tuesday. And I'll make sure Malinowski knows about this. So we've got a backup plan in case it comes in late on the 6th and we really have no time to look at it, because we don't want to necessarily hurry the reconciliation. We want you to truly take all the time you need to do it as right as you can. So it sounds like we could do it on Monday or Tuesday and still not run afoul the 25th. The full committee can meet later in the week. So I'll get Malinowski on board as far as having a backup date to make sure we've got. I would love to have the weekend to look at, to be perfectly frank. We all work. And so it's hard to do anyway. So let's at least say, guys, on the committee, we got the 7th, but let's also put the 10th and 11th as backup dates. If I did the math right, 8, 9, 10, 11, to make sure we really think we've got enough time to look at it and be ready to truly pick it apart. Anybody disagree with that?
What, do you know, Jim, what is not going to be included in this estimate?
As far as, I mean, it'll be everything shown on the drawings plans. The only item will be an add alternate for the additional art room. That will be included as a
Okay.
add alternate, so it won't be included in the base number.
What about
Um,
security? We have had 0 discussions about security.
Yes, yep. Yeah, the full scope will be included within this item.
So that'll just be a gross number without any
Yep.
detail.
Correct. Yep.
Is there anything else that would fit into that category?
So I'm sure they made some assumptions about security. Landscaping will probably be a,
Right.
general number. So some of those more detailed items. I know Arrow Street has had conversations with police and fire for the security piece of it. So they have had input. That, detailed design comes in the next stage of design if hopefully this gets approved. So.
Okay.
Becky, Brian, any questions? Because we will need to work with you guys immediately after getting this to also do the town projection for 5 years. So Brian, boy, that didn't look like you. You look, you
Much
really,
younger.
oh, you look bigger. Look how big he looks. Anyway, you look like a lumberjack. So Brian, to get the bond council teed up to, do their thing on the 6th, so we end up with a town piece of it to talk about too, and especially be ready to talk about that with the full committee the following week.
Yeah, I gave him a heads up. So hopefully, I haven't heard back from him, but I'll touch base with him again next week.
Okay.
Now, the one piece of this, we do need to get the budget approved 10 days prior to submission. So let me just pull up the calendar 1 second. Because we owe a email 10 days prior to submission for the overall budget. And that queues up our that basically queues up our project scope and budget meeting with the MSBA through the review.
So
So
that's 15th, which is a Saturday, right?
yep.
So does that mean it's due on the 14th or the 17th?
So that is due on the 14th. So we want to get it in for the 14th. I'll be honest, speaking with Christina, if we were to send it on the 17th, as long as they get a heads up, it's fine. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there, but that's just an important piece that so basically we say what our total project budget is, what the estimated grant is, and what the total town share is. So
So you have to give her a 3011, based on revised estimate.
So not the full 3011, it's literally just an email showing the numbers. The 3011 we're gonna have queued up. We're getting final Arrow Street sub-consultants, all of, the soft cost side all set up so that when we get the estimate, it'll be ready to go for our meeting with this group. So yes.
But aren't you need to do a 3011 to give her those numbers? I mean, how else would you do it as far as
Of
trying?
course. Yeah. We just don't have to submit the actual document to them until the SD document.
So I would go ahead and ask her for the 17th, just to know that she said, okay, so that Jason can put that in as far as the full committee vote.
Makes sense.
Okay.
One, I just want to clarify as we're on the 3011. Back in August, in our discussions, so for maintenance, for the additional reimbursement points, we're carrying 2 points, obviously. For the energy efficient green schools, we were directed to carry 4 points.
Because we
Out
went
of
with the
the-
geothermal, right? That kicked us up to the 4.
So that kicks you up to the 3. The additional point is for Cape Babrisky could talk in more detail. It's basically some more monitoring, maintenance, some additional items, indoor air quality monitoring, stuff like that. So
I think it sounded like when you do that level of system, that was kind of at least when I remember we talked about the geothermal, and Mark, you probably know better than me, that was part of the selling feature, was that, doing that big of a system would basically guarantee us the 4. But I could
Okay.
be
This is news to me. I thought the most we could get was 3. I'm going back to the 3011.
It's
I think
4, but you get 3 for being green, and then there's an extra.
yeah,
And the extra takes a year to get.
Yeah.
You gotta go through a year of operations to get that 4th point.
yeah. So this is why I just wanted, because I know there was some conversation back and forth. We can carry 3. However, if the ultimate goal is to get 4, I just want to make sure that we're clear when we put the 3011 together. I would err, you know me, I would err on the side of 3 for now, and hope that we can get the 4. However, when we submit the SD package, we do have to say what we are projecting for additional reimbursement points.
I would say Arrow Street needs to make the call if they think it's realistic. If with what we've scoped out and what the project is, if that 4th is a 90%, then we include it. If it's a 50-50, maybe we don't. But it sounded like it was a pretty good shot at the 4. Then by all means, let's include it.
Okay, so
Okay,
just
you
to
think?
be clear about what was included so far. All we've included so far is the 1 for maintenance and 2 of the 4 for green schools. And there's no possibility to get 2, so it was just it shouldn't have been used. We should have used 3. But anyway, that's what we've used so far. So for 3. So we're saying that we know we can use 4 in total, because we know we can use 3 out of the 4 for green schools, right?
Yep.
And then the question is, do we use 4 to get up to 5 in total?
So the
Six-
maintenance,
6 in total.
so the maintenance is between
total.
0 and 2, and
Oh.
we
Okay. All right,
Yep.
but I thought, okay, so let's go back through this and make sure we're right. I thought
exactly, that's
we weren't going to get but 1 in maintenance because the other one we couldn't get. Can we get 2?
that was my understanding, yes.
Okay, this is important, Jim. We need to really
Yep.
understand whether we can get the 2, because we've used 1 so far. So if we can use 2, so Andrew's right, it's 6, it's not 5. So we could use 6 if we think, but I thought someone said, correct me if I'm wrong, at a recent meeting that we couldn't get that second point for wherever it was. We couldn't get it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Is that the second point happens more often than not? I could
Does?
remember that
It-
statement being said.
So just so you know, we have been carrying 2. That was our direction back in August.
No, you haven't, Jim. I'm looking at your 3011. You carried 1. I've got it in front of me. You carried 1. You used
Unless
3.
unless we bumped it up since then. I feel like we had a call on that in the regular Neary meeting.
All I'm
We
saying,
did.
this is what was submitted with the PSR was 3 points. That's what we did. And that's how we got the 80.
I think but Kathy, I remember some meetings since we submitted the PSR in which Arrow Street was like, yeah, getting the second one is pretty common. So we might have added that one back in. I could be
Okay,
wrong, Jim, but that
Fine,
was what
let's
I,
just agree what we're gonna use, because this is
Yeah.
important. A point
Oh,
is,
yeah, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so we think we're gonna get 2 for maintenance, but we need to confirm that, because I don't know why we didn't use 2 to begin with. We didn't on this
I think
third.
we were conservative, right, in the beginning.
And then once we had the budget and then going forward, that my understanding was, and we updated as those conversations went. So right now, the one that I'm looking at, we're carrying 2 for maintenance and 3 for green schools. So the question is, do we want to bump the 3 up to 4? And we can just double check with Arrow Street just to make sure. Because, and I agree, Kathy, these points matter. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay, so the next 3011 we see from you will either say 5 or 6.
Correct. Yep.
And I think we go for the 6 unless Katie says that we're crazy, we're never gonna get the 4, right? But
Yeah,
that's
which-
the conversation when we were talking about the heating system was we would more than likely not be able to get that 4th, and if we can, I'd rather include it.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
so
triple check with
In
them.
our projections, right? And that's what you mean,
Right,
in the projections, as we tell the town, this is what we think our share of the cost is.
Yeah, I mean, we're so close to not getting this approved that I'd hate to be overly conservative and then get it, or the project not be approved because we held off a percent that we're gonna get, or we're gonna get.
And
or-
it made the difference between a couple votes, right? If it were, in the 7, if it was 70 something million instead of 80 something million, it made a difference psychologically, someone.
What I will say is that part of that email that we have to send over to the MSBA is a project, a town budget, which I don't think we have, what's the town's projected budget for this project? So Kathy, I don't know if that's a conversation between you and Jason, if you want to have a target. Because that will come up when we have to send that. We've been operating off, okay, what our current budget is, our current estimates are what the town's projected budget is. If it's lower than that, we just need to know that.
Well, I don't even know what you mean by that. The town's projected budget is whatever we think the bond's gonna be here. So the town doesn't have a different number, if that's what you mean. We have been incorporating in the 5-year projection what we think the bond will be based on our cost estimate. So we don't have a different number, if that's.
And There's a
But
budget we would like to get to, is that what you're saying? Like
Exactly.
aspirational.
Exactly. If there's a budget that the town needs to get to, again, I agree that there hasn't been an agreed upon number that has been given to us. We would need to know that.
Okay, but
Um,
what good does that do? Yes, we'd like to do it for $50 million. What good does that do? So what does
Well-
it do with that number? Is what I'm asking. If it really is a number less than what we think the cost is, what's the purpose of doing that?
Well, it's speaking to the, I'm just going off your comments from that we need to do VE to get below 80. We need to, we would need to know that. If
mean,
there is a number in mind that needs to be achieved, that is what the town's budget is. And again, I don't want to go too far off here because
Yeah, that's a tough, I mean, because if you ask people, I would say, Kathy, what would get it done is to be the same price as a base repair, right? If we were at 63,
Or at least close to it, right?
right, then, or maybe 70, but again, we're just shooting in the dark here, but
yeah, that won't happen. We're
Yeah.
not going to take $10 million off
Yeah.
this project.
But Andrew, my point is, between the 7th and the 25th, we can certainly give everyone a number that we'd like to get it down to, if, within reason. And
yeah,
do
I mean,
it.
I'd shoot this for 75 if we could.
But if they can't do it, what's the purpose of telling MSBA that's the number we would like if we can't get it down to that? So I just don't.
Yeah, and I don't want to muddle that.
Yeah,
What we would show right now is that the projected budget is what the town's budget is. That would be the plan. I'm just going off your comments earlier. If there was a number that came up, we're not going to get down to 75.
yeah,
I can I'm very comfortable saying that. I think we can, our target of potentially getting, if 80 is the number where you want to get, a 7 in front of that, it might be doable. But we're not going to get down. We're not taking $5 million off this project right now, especially with everything going on.
And with everything going on, what do you mean specifically?
Tariffs, all of that projected, all those projected issues where we have tons of material coming in from different areas. That's a concern.
What
So,
are the estimators going to do about tariffs?
so I asked that question of Katie and our estimators. So they're going to get back to me. So I don't have a crystal ball on that. They don't either. But they can project out what they can project out.
Kathy, too, I'm worried that we're not going to be able to get the Inflation Reduction Act money too.
Oh, I am too, very much
Well,
that.
it's frozen right now. He just froze it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's roll this forward. Let's say we get the town meeting vote to pass, and let's say, make it up. We think the bond is $80 million, right? And then MSBA pays for the rest of it. So that's what we think. Then we spend a year doing the design development. We've got now construction documents. We go out to bid, and it's more. We're stuck, right? We're screwed, right?
So a couple things. So as we go through and I'm sure this, we'll have an estimate at the DD stage, design development stage. We'll have an estimate at the 60%, at the 90%. So by the time you get up to the bid, there could be surprises at the bid, but we're projecting those out. So as you go through those stages, you're able to do VEVM. You're in more detailed design, so you're able to have a handle on things that you can reduce. And also we have our design and pricing contingency, so we can start to whittle that down and take chunks out of any increases that we're seeing as we do those 3 different stages of estimates before the bid.
But if we don't end up with a bid that is below what equal or below what town meeting approved, I'm using a terrible word, but we're screwed, right?
So you got to take scope out of the project in order to get it under bid.
Okay. So that's what we would do
Yep.
Okay.
So
Exactly.
the number we're getting includes an assumption of tariffs, or is tariffs just kind of outside?
So it's so new. I want to make sure it's so new that I asked the question. I don't want to get in a discussion about the specific tariffs and what our assumptions were, because we don't know what's going to happen.
Is most of it related to Canada?
Yes. Yeah. That's steel, lumber, a lot of those major pieces of the building all come from Canada.
I saw a number yesterday on utilities across Massachusetts, and our utilities, electric, would go up 200%, because a bulk of our electricity comes from Canada.
Yep.
There's some fights ahead on that issue alone.
Yeah, I think that's what Jim's saying. It's so new, it's too hard. It would just be, Jim, it would be good to understand if there was an assumption made, just what it was, or if no assumption was made at all, it's a risk, right? Just to level.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense. So yeah, like I said, I just had this conversation the other day with Katie. So
Jim, will we get like a isolated like steel part of the estimate?
Yep.
Okay, so that we can look at it in isolation a little bit.
Yeah, now it's not a bid level where you're going to see it'll be assumption of tons of steel.
Yeah, whatever the assumption is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Becky, Brian, do you guys have any questions about where we're going as far as the 7th or the 10th or the 11th? Okay, all right. Okay, Andrew, Mark, anything else?
The only other thing, Jim, that has come up recently is we've been talking about the fields at Neary today, the ones, where we were looking at putting the school. And, I think there's an assumption that that will be utilized for, I don't know, storing materials or putting buildings on or whatever the case is. Is the rebuilding of those fields, is that, I mean, I know it could be included as part of your site costs, but are we carrying anything for kind of the refurbishment of the fields? Not, obviously not a turf field because you can't do that as MSBA, but just, as they're used for PE classes, is that part of,
My-
what we're carrying?
My understanding is that we wouldn't use that as part of construction. Those would be left as they are today. And yeah, so we would just set it up that, that is not a staging area or area for material
That was
storage.
what we were told, is basically those fields are gonna come offline because they're gonna be used as staging, so I think it would just be good I mean, it has nothing to do with the project, it's more about, recreation, field usage, forecasting that we've been talking about offline, but
Yep.
I think it would be good to just clarify that, so we can let the rec commission know that, because the plan is definitely to have that one field there, the Petrie field, available, and then if we can keep the other ones available with, a fence or something, then it would be ideal.
All right, anything else, Mark?
No,
But Jim, too, are we gonna burn through our whole MSBA site cost amount, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I've never had a project that didn't reach that percentage.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if we had some of
Yeah.
that, reimbursement left, maybe Kathy, talk about doing something to that area.
I wish.
where are the uh detention basins going right now on the plans?
I'd have to pull them up, Mark. I'm not sure.
Just a quick comment. Everything's ringing in my ears here. Just a note to double check those basins, where they're located and their depth. Because what I saw the last set of plans, they were too deep, and we're gonna have standing water in there in the front of the school. They were into the water table, so we're just gonna have water sitting there.
Okay.
And that goes back to Andrew's comment. I still think we need to have a discussion on DePetrie Field. Because based on just what I said, our detention basins probably have to be bigger and shallower. So we don't have a situation in front of that school that we have constant standing water.
Mhm.
That presents different issues that we're not dealing with anywhere else. And that may eliminate the Petrie Field. So it's something we need to talk about.
Okay.
But not here, but yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not here, but Mark, the sooner the better, because I keep thinking the site issues have been resolved. And if they're gonna get brought back up at town meeting, we really need to try to get those resolved before town meeting, so we don't necessarily spend that entire meeting focused on the site costs. I know they're gonna get brought up, but to the extent we can answer questions, we really need to get that done before town meeting, if at all possible.
Yeah, and I would defer to Arrow Street and their engineers
Yeah.
as far as the depth and where those are placed. So I'll make a note to make sure we have an answer for that.
Great.
All right,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Well, Kathy, could you, after this, just give me a buzz?
yes, I can.
Okay,
Okay, so Andrew's got the motion to adjourn. Mark,
second,
roll call vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Mark,
aye.
Lucas, aye. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. See you
Thank
soon.
you.
See you soon.